Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to a series of videos in which I am reading you a book. We are reading the Gospel. We're reading the Gospel according to St. Matthew, and we have reached pretty much the end of the story, or at least what all of the human followers of the preacher and miracle worker Jesus of Nazareth would have thought was the end of the story. He has been taken by the authorities in Jerusalem. He has been scourged and whipped. He has been condemned to death. And we are at chapter 27 in the King James Bible, if there's any question about the language here. When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Jesus to put him to death. And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate, the governor. Important to keep in mind that for all their threats and bluster, the elders and chief priests of the temple represent a conquered people. Rome is in charge. Then Judas, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself, and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood. And they said, What is that to us? See thou to that. In other words, figure it out yourself. We don't care whether you betrayed this guy. You did what we wanted. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. And the chief priests took the silver pieces and said, It is not lawful for us to put them into the treasury, because it is the price of blood. And they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremy the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver and price of him that was valued, whom they have of the children of Israel did value, and gave them to the potter's field, as the Lord appointed me. We won't go into the whole rigmarole of prophecy. That not only is that prophecy taken out of context, but it's not a prophecy if it doesn't mention specifics. And it doesn't mention Jesus. It doesn't mention Judas. And Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, Art thou the king of the Jews? Naturally, this would be the only thing that Pilate would care about. And Jesus said unto him, Thou sayest. And when he was accused of the chief priests and elders, he answered nothing. Then said Pilate unto him, Hearest thou not how many things they witness against thee? And he answered him never a word, insomuch that the governor marveled greatly. We saw this in Mark. Pilate is accustomed to people never being able to shut up about how innocent they are. Now at that feast the governor was wont to release unto the people a prisoner whom they would. And they then had a notable prisoner called Barabbas. Therefore when they were gathered together, Pilate said unto them, Whom will ye that I release unto you, Barabbas, or Jesus, which is called Christ? For he knew that for envy they had delivered him, they meaning the priests. He's giving them a chance to thumb them in the eye. He has the power to just release Jesus. But he's giving a chance for the people to do it. When he was set down on the judgment seat, his wife went unto him, saying, Have thou nothing to do with that just man, for I have suffered many things this day in a dream because of him. But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the multitude that they should ask Barabbas and destroy Jesus. The governor answered them and said unto them, Whether of the twain will ye that I release unto you? They said, Barabbas. Pilate said unto them, What shall I do then with Jesus which is called Christ? They all said unto him, Let him be crucified. And the governor said, Why, what evil hath he done? But they cried out the more, saying, Let him be crucified. When Pilate saw that he could prevail nothing, but rather a tumult was made, he took water and washed his hands before the multitude, saying, I am innocent of the blood of this just person. See ye to it. Then answered all the people and said, His blood be on us and on our children. Then released he Barabbas unto them, and when he scourged Jesus, he delivered him to be crucified. Then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus into the common hall, and gathered unto him the whole band of soldiers, and they stripped him, and they put on him a scarlet robe. And when they had platted a crown of thorns, they put it upon his head, and a reed in his right hand, and they bowed the knee before him, and mocked him, saying, Hail, King of the Jews! And they spit upon him, and took the reed, and smote him on the head. And after that they had mocked him, they took the robe off him, and put his own raiment on him, and led him away to crucify him. And as they came out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. Him they compelled to bear his cross. And when they had come unto a place called Golgotha, that is to say, a place of skull, they gave him vinegar to drink mingled with gall. And when he tasted thereof, he would not drink. And they crucified him, and parted his garments, casting lots, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet. They parted my garments among them, and upon my vesture did they cast lots. And sitting down, they watched him there, and set up over his head an accusation written, This is Jesus, King of the Jews. Then there were 2 thieves crucified with him, one on the right hand and the other on the left. And they that passed by reviled him, wagging their heads, and saying, Thou hast destroyed the temple, and build it in 3 days. Save thyself. If thou be the Son of God, come down from the cross. Likewise also the chief priests mocking him with the scribes and elders, and said, He saved others, himself he cannot save. If he be King of Israel, let him come down from the cross, and we will believe him. He trusted in God, let him deliver him now, and he will have him. For he said, I am the Son of God. The thieves also, which were crucified with him, cast the same in his teeth. Again, I want to gently point out that if Jesus had not only come down from the cross in that moment, but also changed the hearts of everyone listening to him and everyone who ever would come after them, it would be a very different story. A very, very different story. A young teenager kicking around a softball in Mesoamerica at exactly this time had no chance whatsoever of knowing about this word or this revelation, and would not know, nor his generations for 100 generations, for 1,000 years or more, would have no chance of even knowing this happened. But let's just move on to the end here. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried with a loud voice, saying, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. That is to say, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Some of them that stood there, when they heard it, said, This man calleth for Elias. And straightway one of them ran and took a sponge, and filled it with vinegar, and put it on a reed, and gave him to drink. The rest said, Let be, let us see whether Elias will come to save him. Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost. And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks rent. And the graves were opened, and the bodies of the saints which slept arose, and came out of their graves after his resurrection, and went into the holy city, and appeared unto many. Now when the centurion and they that were with him, watching Jesus, saw the earthquake and those things that were done, they feared greatly, saying, Truly, this was the Son of God. And many women were there, beholding afar off, which followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering unto him, among which were Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's children. When even was come, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, who also himself was Jesus' disciple. First we've heard of it. He went to Pilate and begged the body of Jesus, and Pilate commanded the body to be delivered. And when Joseph had taken the body, he wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out in the rock. And he rolled a great stone on the door of the sepulchre, and departed. And there was Mary Magdalene and the other Mary sitting over against the sepulchre. Now the next day that followed the day of the preparation, the chief priests and Pharisees came together unto Pilate, saying, Sir, we remember that the deceiver said, whilst he was alive, After 3 days I will rise again. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the 3rd day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. And so the last error shall be worse than the first. Pilate said unto them, Ye have a watch. Go your way, make it as sure as you can. So they went and made the sepulchre sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. That is the penultimate chapter of the Gospel of St. Matthew, in which things are in ruin. Just like this point in Mark. Things are in ruin. Jesus has had an unbelievably popular ministry. Thousands of people flocking to him. His disciples empowered themselves with the ability to manipulate supernatural forces, and believing that he is the Lamb of God, believing that he is the Messiah. And yet, they are scattered. There's darkness over the face of the earth, and Jesus has been nailed up on a cross and is dead. Having first wailed in misery that God the Father has forsaken him. I know that we're trying to read this without a religious gloss, so it's important to realize that this Jesus, just like Mark's Jesus, dies defeated, believing that he has failed. And so seems to believe everyone that knows him. There are a couple of minor theological things. I've mentioned one already that has always confused me. Coming at this as literature, it's always confused me why Jesus would care about fulfilling 900-year-old prophecies in a book somewhere. Why wouldn't he just come down off the cross? Why wouldn't he speak the word directly into the hearts of everyone in the world, not just everyone listening to him, but everyone in the world, then and forever? It seems, I hate to say this, but it seems a very local story. It seems a very limited story. Certainly it is not unique. The Romans nailed a whole bunch of people to crosses and boards on the walls of cities and along roadsides for 100 years before this and 100 years after this. The only other minor quibble that I have is Judas, of course, the enduringly mysterious role of Judas. Jesus knows that he's going to betray him. Jesus doesn't stop that from happening. So Judas is never given an opportunity. He's never given an intervention to stop his behavior. Plenty of other people who are on the wrong path are given exactly that kind of intervention by Jesus, and it changes them. Judas doesn't get that opportunity, and Jesus says, not only is he not going to get that opportunity, not only is he fated to betray me, but he is going to suffer worse than anyone in history. We see that in Dante's Inferno. You get to the bottom, you have note, if Satan in Dante only had one mouth, turns out he has three, but if he only had one mouth and was ripping with his teeth the flesh of one person, you know it would be Judas, and it is. Why, though? Why is that? Why Judas repents and kills himself? Peter repents in the previous chapter and doesn't kill himself. Those are minor, though, because the elemental power of the story isn't affected by them at all. They are minor or little pinpricks compared to the power of the story, which reaches its pinnacle in the next chapter. So we'll finish up the Gospel of Matthew next time around. I'll wrap this up for now. I will see you then. Thank you, BookTube.